Hello all and welcome to tonight's beer review. I'm going to be doing two reviews tonight, so I'm going to be pretty quick about this for a couple reasons. First off, a lot of things have happened in my personal life that makes it very hard for me to crack wise as I am wont to do in my beer reviews. So, yeah. And two, because these beers are fairly light. So, I was at Whole Foods this evening and I saw that Anderson Valley Brewing Company had released a Gose variety pack. Now, one of these Goses, I should say, because they're all Goses, I reviewed fairly early on in 2015, so that was about 8 years ago. So I think it's about time to revisit that beer as well as try these other Goses from them that I have not tried yet. And this is the Framboise Rosé Gose. You would think that Framboise Rose Goes would be the way they say that in English. Well, I guess I can crack wise a little bit. I really don't want to talk about what happened. It's some kind of traumatizing for me, honestly. But yeah, this is 4.2 ABV, and it is a Goza, in other words, a salted kettle sour that is made with the addition of rose hips and raspberry in this particular case. And let's see here. The only verbiage on this is Ballhorning since 1987. I have no idea what ballhorning means. I suppose, if I remember correctly, it has something to do with the odd, sort of accent of Anderson Valley in California, where apparently it was like a part of California that was heavily settled by Scandinavian settlers, so they kind of have like that weird sort of upper Midwest accent inside California, influenced by Californian accent. I don't know. And if I'm clearing my throat a lot, well, I'm having some throat problems, which I'm going to be seeing the doctor for, which hopefully isn't serious. Things going on in my life. Probably going to be told I need to quit smoking and quit drinking. It seems what they always tell me whenever I go to the doctor. I was expecting a little bit more of a red tinge here. So, slightly opalescent, very well carbonated, orange yellow color, with a frothy white head that has that sweet tart sort of note of minerality that I associate with kettle sours. The rose hips I smell more than the raspberry. Both are there, but I smell the rose hips more. More in the woody aspect of rose hips rather than the floral aspect. The raspberry doesn't smell particularly sweet. It smells slightly fermented, which obviously is the case. All in all, pretty much an even mix. Oh, there's that floral rose hip thing. It wasn't immediately apparent there. So pretty much an even mix, more or less, of the kettle sour smells, the smells of the rose hips, and the smell of the raspberry. Okay, on to the palate now. Like all of Anderson Valley's Gozas, very new world in style. Very, very tart. Bracingly, refreshingly tart. Despite the heavy visible carbonation, you know, it's not too carbonated on the palate. Roll back, so it goes back here. Hello, I'm back here. I give up with this old camera. Okay. Anyways, so very upfront is that sort of salty minerality, followed by, um, boy, this thing does not want to focus today. This is like the worst it's ever been. Maybe his camera's finally dying. Who knows? Just think of it as an impressionistic beer review, huh? There we go. So up front, very much that sort of salty mineral Gose taste. Followed by a very intense mixture of tartness in which it is very much influenced by the rosehips. It almost tastes like, you know, rosehip tea at that point with salt added to it. As the intense tartness fades in the mids to finish, you're left with a sort of wheaten funk. And a very subtle fermented long top note smell. Now, top note is actually pretty interesting. While you're getting that really intense rose hips on the palate, in the top note, you're getting a somewhat intense smell of that raspberry fruitiness there, or berryness, I suppose. It's not particularly sweet, but it is a contrast from the rose hips on the palate. And that raspberry is coming across stronger in the top note than it is in the nose. And it also kind of declines at that point in the midst to finish. Other than a brief flash in the very front, you don't really get any of the raspberry on the palate, as it were. Maybe it adds somewhat to the tartness of it. I wouldn't know. I'm going to confess here. I maybe have had like fresh raspberries like once or twice in my life, and never as just like raspberries. It's always been like as part of like some sort of dessert where it's like they have raspberries on top of the dessert. So I'm not too familiar with the taste of raspberry straight. Excuse me. Yeah, but definitely that raspberry shows up much more in the top note. Very little on the palate. Definitely show for that salt and rose hip in the front, and then you get more of that wheaten malt funkiness in the back end. Hops wise, well, I don't even taste any hops in here. I'm pretty sure as part of like the style guide they add like a little bit, but you definitely don't taste it or sense it in your nose. It's all salty and salt and tart here. Okay, so Anderson Valley, Framboise, Rose Gose. I don't know why they called it well, I guess because it's rose hips, not because it looks particularly rosy as a beer. Yeah, this is a pretty interesting one. I mean, it has very interesting taste and smell transitions and placements. There's not a huge amount of complexity there. You know, the main notes are the main notes throughout. Is how they fade in and out. That's really kind of interesting and lends itself well. I wouldn't recommend this, obviously, if you're not into sours. This is a very advanced grade sour in tartness level. And I know rose hips are not for everyone. If you don't like rose hips, I definitely wouldn't go for this. I do like rose hips, so I do go for this. And that is the first of 2 beer reviews for tonight. I'll see you after I guess, chug the rest of this, wash the glass out, and return. Okay.